sermon series on Solomon. It's really part one today, but as a quick review, what we looked at last week is how God placed Adam and Eve in the garden, and the first command that he gave them was to be fruitful and multiply more images of God, to fill the earth with images of God. And so he gave them from the beginning, it's a really important verse, in the beginning God created, in the beginning God designed. And since he is the designer of marriage, since he is the creator of sexuality, he knows how it's supposed to work. And so if God designed us to run like a Corvette, but we're trying to act like a Jeep in an off-road vehicle, we might run that way for a while if we're running a Corvette on this track, but eventually we're going to end up in a ditch. Or the same way, if we're trying to run this Jeep 200 miles an hour on a road like this, we're going to flip it. Why? Because our marriages and our way that we live out our sexuality is based on God's design. And so we need to live out even our dating relationships the way God designed them to be lived out. And so when God gives us something so powerful like human sexuality, the only thing in the universe that can reproduce more eternal images of God, reproduce a soul that will live forever in either heaven or hell, he's placing the proverbial hand grenade in our hand. And so to imagine that God has given something with this much power, this much influence, that affects our lives in so many ways, to imagine that he gives us that without an instruction booklet would almost be malpractice from a heavenly sort. This is why the Bible gives us lots of examples of what marriage should be, shouldn't be, but it also gives us the book of Solomon to walk us from the early stages of attraction all the way through the honeymoon and how to extend romance into a marriage for years to come. And so the writer of this book, one of the wisest men of all times, in the world at his time, even the other nations of the world recognized he was the wisest man in the world. The Bible tells us that Solomon spoke over 3,000 proverbs of wisdom, and he also wrote 1,005 songs. But when the Bible tells us that the Song of Solomon, the Song of Songs, it uses this term to say it is the song of all songs. Just like Jesus is the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, to say it this way means the Bible recognizes, God recognizes this is the best song that Solomon ever wrote. It is so crucial for us to understand marriage and sexuality. And today we're going to look specifically at the 7 laws of biblical attraction. How is it that a relationship should begin that may end in a marriage situation? Okay, so just a general overview. When we look at the Song of Songs, I just wanted you to notice this up front. The majority of the book is the female who's in the relationship. It's her speaking. Only about 30% of the verses are the guy speaking. So in other words, even though this was written 3,000 years ago, some things never change, right? Women just have more words. They want to talk more about love and romance typically than men do. And then the girl also, when you add her with her girlfriends, and this other quote, really it's almost 3 to 1 as to who's speaking. The guy just kind of sits there and he's only talking because he has to sometimes, I feel like. But a lot of people are speaking into the marital relationship. And I'm going to say this right off the bat. These other people who speak into it and family members, have you ever wondered this? Why is it that we typically only have conversations about our relationships, especially when it comes to our sexuality and dating lives, with people who are largely plus or minus 2 years of where we are in life? You ever think about that? What is it culturally that guards us from having conversations with people much older than us? I'm just seriously, I'm asking a question here about raising of hands, okay? And I especially want the teenagers and college students, young adults to see this. How many of you who are now over 40 would say, now just watch the hands go up in the room. How many of you who are now, first of all, how many of you in the room are over 40 willing to admit it? Raise your hand if you're over 40 willing to admit it. So look around the room. It's about half. Okay, it's about half. Okay, half over 40, half under 40. How many of you who are over 40 feel like you understand more about sexuality than you did when you were 22 years old. Your knowledge of human sexuality is greater now than it was 20 years ago. If you're over 40, that's true. Will you raise your hand? Okay, almost every hand in here just went up. Do y'all follow that? The reason I'm sharing that with you is sometimes you think you know what you're doing when you're 20. When you're 40, you will look back to when you were 20 and you will realize I had no idea what I was doing, okay? This is one of those things that people over 40 will say to you, with all due respect, they've been where you are, but you haven't been where they are. Can a lot of people over 40 give me an amen on that? Is that there's things, if you're over 40, you want the people under 40 to know, in large part, so they don't make the mistakes you did. And I would especially say in this book, you've got Solomon who made a number of mistakes. And I think what he's doing in this book is writing it in such a way is I want, especially those under 40, to learn not to do a lot of the things that I did. Not to go about dating the way I did. Not to practice your sexuality necessarily the way I did. And so what he's doing, he's painting a picture of what a healthy dating and marriage and eventually sexual relationship will look like. And I just want to encourage you, sometimes it can feel a little weird and it's just a cultural thing. And really, it's mostly, just being honest, it's new to American culture because we do so much age-specific education unlike, and I'm just saying today, American culture, unlike what even our nation knew 7,500 years ago. 100 years ago, we had things called one-room schoolhouses. Have y'all even heard of those before? Where you had people in there from first grade to 12th grade learning together. Now, because of population growth and the center of growth in cities, everybody's all the same age all the way through. But we don't have many community discussions. And if you read the rabbis from back in the day, they were regularly having discussions with the young men they were discipling about sexuality. But today it almost seems weird, and in some cases, some people might even feel like it feels creepy to have discussions about marriage and sexuality with a bunch of different demographics in the room. But what I'm here to share with you is let's regularly be checking this. The way I think about things, the way we think about things in our American culture today, is it the biblical way of thinking through things? Or there are a lot of things you think that possibly we accept because our culture, we grew up in a culture that thinks this way, that maybe the Bible's trying to tell us culturally we need to think about it a different way. And so that's a lot of what Song of Solomon is going to do. It's going to teach us timeless truths about how to relate to people of the opposite sex, okay? So let's begin here in verse 2. Starts out with a kiss. It says, let him kiss me, this is the guy she's attracted to, with the kisses of his mouth, because your love is better than wine. Now, the word here for love in Hebrew is not the word yet for erotic love. It's not the word for sexual love yet. It is a love that's based on relationship, similar to saying in the New Testament when it says, beloved, let us love one another. It's this idea of we're all in this together. There's a foundational love that is based on relationship and emotional and spiritual connection. So a church can have a relationship that is based on emotional and spiritual connection and intellectual connection. And what she's saying here is, I am ready to move to the kissing stage with this young man because his love is better than wine. The word here for love is not a sexual love. I'm ready to explore something with this man because we have an intellectual connection, because we have a spiritual connection, because we're beginning to have an emotional connection that's not necessarily sexual in nature. I lead with this because Solomon leads with this word for love is a foundation, at the foundation of any relationship, moving toward a physical relationship, there needs to follow a previously established personal relationship. So often in our society, we are attracted to people just because of some kind of animalistic sexual attraction. A lot of times we can look at an app or we're watching things or whatever, and even what we are looking at all the time begins to melt. I'm trying to think of a politically correct way of saying this. It begins to trick our mind into being attracted to things that the Bible would not want us to be attracted to. It is a proven fact, and this is what I'm going to share with you a number of things throughout this series of social science. And what I mean by that is social science is where you poll people and you examine people, how people think and how they operate within society. Things like anthropology, sociology, a lot of psychology. These are the social science where you examine how people think within cultural structures. And one of the things that I want you to understand about this is who we are as humans and what we're attracted to goes directly back. It's directly related to what we are seeing in our culture with our eyes all the time. And so what you're saying, for example, if a young girl is looking at pictures in a magazine of other young girls who are, let's say, I'm just throwing a number out there, 5'6", 165 pounds, which is like a normal size for someone of that height, okay? If they're constantly looking at girls that size, they begin to think that's the normal look that a girl 5'6" should have and the normal weight that a girl 5'6" would have. But if they start having those girls, and when I say girls, I'm talking about 17-year-old girls, if they have them start looking at girls and then they start dropping the weight in 15-pound increments to the point that the girls are looking at pictures of girls in a magazine who are 5'6", 105 pounds, within less than a month, the girls will start thinking this is what a girl should look like. Do y'all follow what I'm saying? The pictures will start changing your mind. Your culture will start telling you this is what you should be attracted to. In the same way, if a young man, 17 years old, is looking at pictures of a normally built female, the way the average female looks, 5'6", 160 pounds, something like that, okay, just normal, 150, 60 pounds or whatever, the normal height and weight for a young lady, okay, and you're looking at that girl, you see that size, but all of a sudden you start showing him pictures of girls with implants who are 5'6", 105 pounds. He will start to be attracted to that which he is looking at, even though he was completely attracted to the 5'6", 150-pound girl just a month ago. Do y'all follow what I'm saying? What you're feeding your eyes or what culture you're walking into, what movies you're watching on TV, those things affect what you're attracted to. And so what I'm trying to do is say, man, let's put the world back over here. Let's put those images that we're seeing constantly in social media. Let's take back what we're seeing on TV and even ESPN and, God forbid, Weather Channel models, okay? Let's take those pictures back for a moment and let's get a picture of what God says is normal, of what God says should be appropriate, of what God says we need to value the most. And what it's saying here is, man, what we need to value first is not sexual attraction, but intellectual, emotional, and spiritual connection. Understand this is, I love her with the love of the Lord. There's this idea of brotherhood, sisterhood within the faith. So the biblical attraction starts with, is this man a follower of Jesus? That's steps one. Like, I'm not even going to go to thinking about kissing a guy or having any kind of physical relationship with a guy, or a guy's thinking, I'm not even going to think about kissing a girl or having any kind of physical relationship with a girl if I don't first love what she loves, or to say a better way, if we don't both love who we both love, which is Jesus Christ. It has got to start there. Any relation, if you don't have that in common and your foundation is built on some kind of physical, animalistic relationship, it is going to spiritually starve your soul. Now, let's talk about this. What is dating versus dating courting? What does that mean? Okay, I'm even using an old-fashioned word here, but I'm doing it intentionally. First of all, there's nothing wrong with a guy and a girl going on a date. It's up to you and your families. I think it's a good thing to wait till you're 17, 18 years old to start doing this. I'll talk a little more about that in a moment. But just to go out on a date with a friend in a very public situation of a friend of the opposite sex, the purpose of a date is one of observation with no expectation. There's no expectation of another date in the future, let alone that we're going to get married someday. A lot of times I've even heard Christian people say, man, I'm not going to date someone I don't intend to marry. Okay, you don't want to be dating or courting someone you don't intend to marry, but man, it's hard to have enough information whether or not you even want to go on a second date with somebody if you don't go on the first one just to observe. No expectation, no physical anything. We are just relating to people to making sure that there's this basic foundation. Do we love common things? Do we love Jesus together? Do we have common interests together? Okay? Then, if you have a date and that goes well, then you might pray about and consider and talk with people who are godly. Should you consider dating or courting? And what that means is if you're going to go in successive dates with someone and you're going to have an exclusive relationship with them and you're not talking to other people, what you're saying is, this is the type of person that I learned during our singular date that I might be willing to move toward marriage with. Not just move forward with physically, but move forward with emotionally and spiritually. And you're seeking education with an expectation at this point that if this continues to go well, this might be somebody that we reproduce more images of God. It's just something you're thinking in the back of your mind, okay? Now, I'm going to go to general laws of attraction. Again, this is something that I studied. It is social science. This is one of those things. You might hate the message, but don't hate the messenger. These aren't my rules. I'm just telling you, when they polled men around the world, the results came out the same as men in the United States of America. In other words, men in general all think the same about these three things, okay? And so if you're a lady right now and you're looking at this list and you're thinking men are pigs, don't be mad at me because I'm just telling you how men think. Okay? This is men in general. I'm not saying these are biblical laws of attraction. I'm just saying this is how men around the world think. When men are looking for what they're attracted to in a woman, typically, it starts with observable maternal physical qualities. Okay? Now, I could spend a lot of time on this. Evolutionary biologists agree with the spiritual result of this. Even Christian sociologists, they agree with this. Is guys like things that make women look like women, that set them apart from men. That's a general idea, okay? And it goes back to, this is what evolutionary biologists would say, but even Christian sociologists would also say, deep down, even if men don't know it, subconsciously they are thinking, follow this, they are thinking, I want to marry a woman who will be a good nurturer for my children who are born images of God in the future, or just so that we can have children. That's what guys are subconsciously thinking, whether they realize it or not. What does that mean? Most men are attracted to women and they look at their chest. Why? Because men don't have chests like women have chests, but those chests are something that gave them comfort when they were young. They associate that with their mothers. And some of you are thinking, now that sounds creepy. I'm just telling you what the social science says, okay? They think this is a place where I can find comfort. It's not just in their chest, but typically guys are also attracted to hips. Evolutionary biologists would say this. I would just say God programs it in us from the beginning. But evolutionary biologists would explain it this way. I think they line up together, honestly. What they would say is guys tend to look for, subconsciously, women who will have an easier time having children. This is part of the perpetuation of the species. And again, I think God puts that in there. In other words, there's a reason guys like curvy girls, because girls with hips are better built to have children. I'm just telling you what the science says, okay? And so there are a number of women in this room, my wife included. My wife doesn't have the biggest hips. I think she's the most shapely person in the world. I am totally in love with her. I'll talk about that in a moment, just how much I love my wife, and I have eyes just for her. But that said, when baby number one came along, if it weren't for surgeries today, you all do realize the infant mortality rate and the mortality rate among mothers would be way higher today, and it is way lower today than what it was 100 years ago. Because of our ability. Like my poor wife, I can remember, I will never forget this. I remember she was in, I don't want to say the number on, I think it was 44, 46 hours with Titus. Is that right? And she really wanted to do the natural childbirth with all the shots and all this stuff. And man, she did all the classes and the breeding, and I went to all that stuff with her. I mean, we were as ready. She had read 10,000 books being prepared for this time. But there came a point where baby Titus just got stuck in there and he wasn't coming out. And if it weren't for a C-section, I wouldn't even have my wife today or any of my 3 children. It would have been a disaster. And so what I'm saying is there are a lot of women who's, and I'm not saying it's true of my wife, but there are a lot of women who don't have very big hips. And what I'm saying is subconsciously, what we see is guys are attracted to things that will lead to maternal qualities, whether it's the chest or hips, okay? The second thing that men are attracted to are just the facial beauty of the women, all right? And again, women's like, men are pigs. I want them to like my personality. Well, that then, at least this is in the top 3 for guys, okay? The next one is caring personality. But listen, even the caring personality goes back to maternal attributes. Because what guys are thinking deep down is they want someone who will be caring and maternal with them, but they also subconsciously are thinking, I want to make sure this woman that I'm with will take care of my kids someday. And evolutionary biologists say that this is part of the DNA. I would say God puts that in us, that we're attracted to women who will be good mothers for our children. And I'll just be honest with you, one of the number one things that attracted me to my wife before we ever went out on the first date is I saw her working in the nursery at church. I watched her work with kids. And as I became more and more attracted to her, I went to visit her because she was working in a place like Lionheart. And I watched her running around with those babies, and something in my heart longed for her to do that with my children. It was far greater than a desire to be with her sexually. It was that something maternal in her that I saw. She is going to be a great mom. So I want to encourage you guys, there might be a girl that you are just super physically attracted to, but let me tell you what, if you have children with her someday and she's not a good mother to your children, you're going to have problems. So think about that now. Any woman, if you want to have kids someday, any girl you get with, no matter how attracted you are to her physically, you need to first think, will she raise my children in the way of the Lord? Will she be a good mom? Look for these things, okay? Now, let me get off of that as quickly as I can. Let's go to the next one, okay? The next one, general laws of attraction for females, okay? This will give some of you ugly guys hope. Number 1 is enjoyable personality, okay? This was something that always used to amaze me when I was in school, is some of these guys were ugly. I mean, we used to say chants about them, U-G-L-Y, you ain't got no alibi, you ugly, all right? But they would get the most beautiful girls. And the rest of us decent-looking guys were like, how in the world? Why? You ever do that, guys? You look at some girl, and you're like, why is that girl with that guy? Like, how could that happen? And all of you are thinking, yeah, I know an exact situation like that. It's our pastor and his wife, okay? Like, you're just thinking, like, how's that person? But it really goes, the number one thing that girls go back to is an enjoyable personality. But again, this is something I think God puts in women. Okay? And here's why. Social science. Do you realize that over 75% of women around the world report at some point in their life being a victim to domestic abuse? At some point, their father or a brother or a step-sibling, somebody related to them or someone within their house or a boyfriend they were going out with, somebody they knew personally, physically abused them. And so this idea a lot of times goes back to, I feel safe with this guy. It's just in them. Or listen, guys, if you want girls to be attracted to you, here's the question I want you to start with. Will this woman feel safe with you? If it would move toward dating, would she feel safe being in a car with you? Is she thinking, I'll be safe emotionally with this man? Or will he abuse me emotionally, physically, spiritually, sexually? This is deep down what girls are looking for. Is this going to be a man who's abusive to me? Or is he have a personality that will be caring? And then the second one, and this is not on any man's top 10 list, is that she smells good. Okay, I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. Or the women are looking for a guy that smells good. Okay, so again, ugly guys have a chance. You just need to smell better. Okay, and then third, the ability to protect and provide. Now, a lot of girls will think, man, I want a guy who's just built well. I'm attracted to muscles. But deep down, subconsciously, what this goes back to is a guy with muscles makes you feel, again, it goes back to the first one, makes a female feel safe. I remember being in college, and we had some girls in the youth group, not in the youth group, in the college group, who were just going out with some guys who were just punks. And I got a bunch of them together, and I said, I need y'all to explain something to me that I just don't understand as a man. Why are so many of our girls going out with the SIG-Eps? And all due respect to the SIG-Eps, if you're here today, I'm just saying at West Virginia University, they were a bunch of meatheads, all right? And a lot of times, they were jerks, okay? But they worked out a lot. They were known as like the most muscular group. And I'm like, but they were punks. They just weren't nice guys. And a lot of times I would ask, why are girls attracted to guys like that? Their personality's not good, like they're all arrogant and everything. And one of the girls said to me, it's because they feel safe at a party or downtown on High Street at night with a guy like that on their side. And every one of the other girls went, yep, pretty much true. They make us feel safe. And so it's not just the build of a man subconsciously that they're attracted to, but it's deep down what they're looking for is a guy who is protective and also a guy who will provide for them and keep them safe. And those are what we would call paternal qualities. Now, getting back to the scriptures is what the Bible says we need to be following, okay? Guys, I have a question for you. How many of you, at least 2 times a year, you married guys, at least 2 times a year over the course of your marriage, start feeling really attracted to your wife, you go up, start kissing her, you're wanting to go further, and then you make the statement to your wife, hey, you need to go take a shower. How many of you guys say that to your wife probably once or twice a year? You need to, like no man raised his hand. Even if you would think it's true, you wouldn't raise your hand right there, okay? Now, but how many of you women, you can raise your hand on this, your husband won't be mad, okay? Women are different. How many of you women, at least once or twice a year, say to your husband in various contexts, ain't nothing happen if you don't take a shower, okay? Raise your hand, ladies, if you ever say that to your husband. Lots of female hands went up to the room. Some are lifting 2 hands, jumping up and down, okay? There's a very important theological application here. There really is, okay? Watch what he says, what she says here. Let him kiss me with the kiss of his mouth because, 1, your love has been one. We've got a relationship. We share common interests. That's that type of love. But then she leads in verse 3 with, your anointing oils are fragrant. Said no man ever. Man, I need a girl that has just the right perfume in order for me to be attracted to her. Guys don't say that, okay? But girls do. And then it's here in verse 3, but it's all throughout the book. I'm just giving you, it's all throughout even chapter 1. Watch this. It says, while the king was on his couch, my nard gave forth its fragrance. Okay, it's like an essential oil or it's a cream, a good smelling cream. Like that's important to a woman. My beloved is to me a sachet of myrrh that lies between my breasts. Women a lot of times would wear, back in that day, they didn't have showers, running waters like that. So in order to cover up some of the body odor that would go on, they would wear a little pouch with some like essential oils, just a drop or 2 there. Later in verse 14, it says, my beloved is to me a cluster of henna blossoms in the vineyards of En-Gedi. Okay, that's an oasis in the middle of the desert. And what it's saying here is the henna blossom was said in that ancient Near East culture to be the best smelling plant in the wilderness. And you could just have one little leaf tied in here in a little something necklace around your neck here. You could have one little leaf in there and it would give an aroma all day to kind of be a deodorant, so to speak. It's the way they did their deodorant down around the time of Solomon. Now, I say all that to say, to lead to point number 2 here. This guy is taking the time to put essential oils on. This guy is bathing himself. The oils back then, it was saying, I love the soap that he uses, okay? Here's why I'm sharing all this. I take a lot of time to make this point. The man who is attractive cares about the things the woman cares about. Men aren't getting up and smelling all nice to impress other men. You're doing something because you know it's important to your woman. My mom could tell me for years, Stevie, you need to take a shower. I wouldn't take a shower. I would go to camp when I was in middle school with 20 pieces of clothes. I would come back with maybe 3 things that I wore the same shirt every day, okay? I wasn't attracted to girls. I didn't care yet, all right? But let me tell you what, when I get with Willis, D. Bowman back in the day, and I realize that scent or something that's important to her, all of a sudden, I'm taking a lot more showers. Why? Because part of me trying to get her to be attracted to me is demonstrating to her that I care about what she cares about. Do y'all follow? And guys, a lot of times this is where we drop the ball. It's an early principle, is we go to our wives and want them to fulfill our needs when we aren't taking the initiative, like the man we see in this story, to do what we need to do so our wives will first be attracted to us. It's not the job of the woman to do what she needs to do to woo us. It's our job to be the type of man that will attract her to the man. Do you follow that? And so it's not her job to be something to us first. We're trying to woo her. We're trying to bring her in, okay? That leads us to the second part of verse 3. Watch this. Your anointing oils are fragrant. Again, he cares about the things she cares about. If she's into Italian food, we're going to Italian food tonight. If she wants this for lunch, that's what we're going to get for lunch. If she wants this kind of car to be comfortable, I'm going to get her that kind of car instead of the kind of car I want. Do y'all follow with me, man? Is I'm trying to communicate to my wife, whatever's important to you, honey. I tell her all this all the time, and I've been saying it a lot more here lately. She'll say, will you do this for me, honey? I'm just here to make you happy. All right? To which she just laughs, like, all right? But I'm telling her constantly, honey, I'm just here to make you happy. I'm just here to make you happy. And the more I say it, the more I convince myself it's true. Because I know that's what God would say. Like, I am here to please my wife. That's one of the laws of attraction. And then next, she says, listen, a drop of oil is one thing, but watch this. But far more important than having a drop of essential oil to make you smell, far more important than wearing deodorant, your name is oil poured out. We're not talking about a drop of something. What's like, pour out the whole bottle of a good name. What does it mean to have a good out? What is it about someone's name that causes other women to be attracted to you? Your name is your character. Other women look at you, and that's something that I saw all the time, man. There would be a guy that I would think, dude's a total loser, but as soon as one girl likes him, other girls are attracted to him. It's just something, I don't know. I used to think, does he have some kind of magical potion or what? Like, why are girls attracted to this guy? But there's something about when one guy becomes attracted to one pretty girl, now all the girls in the class like that guy. They all want to be with that guy. There's something about the name, there's something about the character that this is a guy you want to go out with, his reputation. And along with the name, remember I said this before, when you're baptized in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, what does it mean? That you're willing to come under his authority. And so, I don't know if you remember the middle school romances. It was pretty cool. I had like one of these and it lasted for 3 weeks, all right? Where there was a girl named Michelle that I went out with, okay? Who would write her name, Michelle Ann Willis, okay? Michelle Ann Willis. And what that was her way of doing was communicating to me and other people, I'm interested, crazy as it was, when we were 13 years old, I wouldn't mind having the last name Willis. What this is saying is this girl is willing to accept coming under this man's level of authority, so much so that she's willing to change her Social Security card. I'm willing to get my license changed. I'm willing to change my names on all my legal documents. Why? Because I'm willing to come under the authority of a man like that. Guys, this is what I'm saying back to you. You want to become a man that other women want to take your last name. You want to become a man where other women say, that's the type of guy I want to be under his arm. This is way more important than smelling good. You trust that he will provide for you. So I want to share this with you in celebration today. It's social media. Like my oldest and my daughter-in-law, they're due to have a baby anytime. And so we're just excited about that. Y'all be praying for me this week. Could come anytime in the next 10 days, okay? And then I've got my youngest. Many of you know Lucas. He loves being in praise band. So he's serving the Lord through music. My oldest serves the Lord. He's an attorney, but he also serves the Lord. He leads one of, if not the largest, Sunday school class in his church where he is now. He and Taylor do that together. My daughter, very proud of her, Jonna, she is a children's ministry minister up at a church in Ohio. But I got to be honest with you, my son-in-law, as of this week, may have topped them all. Because while everybody else in the family is serving the Lord in some capacity, he just got a job with Chick-fil-A, and now he's serving the Lord's chicken, like everywhere you go. Amen? All right. So I will tell you, I keep praying for an owner of a Chick-fil-A to join membership at One Church. We all join me. We need pastors, more pastors in the area, but for One Church, we need a Chick-fil-A franchisor. I got an amen for the Lord's chicken back there, okay? But he's running all the catering up there in Springfield, Ohio. It was the town where everybody used to eat the dogs and the cats, Trump said. Now they're eating the Lord's chicken. We're after that, okay? Now this is why that's so important. For my daughter to take his name, which is Hansher, the first time he came to me to ask for her hand in marriage, it was down here just right behind the church when we first moved down here. He came down here, we were sitting out on the patio, and he said, I'd really like to have your daughter's hand in marriage. And I said, thank you, I respect you coming to me first. Your major is theater, is that correct? He said, yes. And I'm like, okay, that theater degree and $6 will get you a cup of coffee at Starbucks, okay? I need to know what you're gonna do. What is your plan for providing not only for my daughter, but for my grandbabies? And he says, well, we really don't have a plan right now. And I said, there's nothing else to talk about. If you're not giving me a plan of how you're going to provide for my daughter someday, she's going to keep my last name until there's a guy who's going to provide for her is ready to give her his last name. And he looked at me like, are you kidding? I'm like, I am not joking. 3 months later, he came back with a plan. He got an MBA. Now he's running Chick-fil-A. All is good on planet Earth, okay? I say that because, listen, we joke about it. But watch this. She says, draw me after you, let us run. The king has brought me into his dad's chambers. Is this what this says? Here's a general rule for moms and dads, even for y'all, right? You know a guy is ready. I'm not saying a date. You ladies are cool. Go out on a date. Get to know guys. No expectations. All that's cool. But generally, if we're dating toward this is somebody I might stay with, if he can't pay for his own car insurance, he ain't the guy for you. He's got to be a guy. This is what I always say to all my kids, man, look for somebody that will work hard and loves the Lord. They will love the Lord and they're a hard worker. That's important, and this is what she's saying. Part of what attracts me to this guy is he's already got his own place. He doesn't just have his own place, he's got furniture. He's got a couch. Okay? We moved to Dallas together. We didn't have any furniture. I mean, I had to go work 2 or 3 jobs so we would have a couch, okay? It says the beams of our house, like he's already building a place for her. They're not married yet. They're not even engaged yet, but he's working on building their house. And it's cedar, it's nice. Our rafters are pine, like he is busy about this. So much so that everybody around her, watch this, says this to her. We will exult and rejoice in you. Speaking of the guy that she's going out with, we will extol your love, like y'all's love, more than wine. Rightly do they love you, the guy. So what is it saying here? Don't miss this. Later, they say this in the verse. We will make for you ornaments of gold studded with silver. This is what they would do. Here's what I'm saying is, they're saying we would be elated if we could buy a wedding present for you. We want to throw a shower, wedding shower for you, an engagement shower for you. Why? Because we know this guy is a provider. We know he has the character to support you. We know he loves the Lord. I want to encourage every young lady in this room. Listen, a godly woman cares if her family and Christian friends want to see the relationship move forward. That's something that should really attract a girl to a guy. I'm just asking you this question specifically. I see over here Isaac and Elizabeth. They just got married not long ago, okay? And I will totally say this that I heard about from just about every kid in the college ministry. Say kid, you're young adults, I know it. All of them were all about the two of you. I heard that from students all the time, like, Isaac's a good guy. I remember seeing Elizabeth up here at a BCM dinner one time. She's just smiling and praising the Lord. She couldn't have been smiling or anything like that. And I remember thinking at that time, and I later told you, Isaac, whatever you do, man, put a ring on that finger. This is a girl that loves the Lord. She's going to be a good mom someday. Weren't all your friends telling you the same thing? Elizabeth, didn't you have friends telling you Isaac's a good guy? Didn't you have friends telling you, like, this is the type of guy you want to be married to? He's going to be a guy that you can trust. Like, there's something about the name of Isaac that you wanted to take upon yourself. Do you follow that? That is what, ladies, that is what should attract you to a guy. It needs to attract you to a guy, is this is a guy that everybody else is telling you, you need to marry him. Guys, if you're dating a girl and your friends are saying, dude, you got to put a ring on that finger. Dude, you got to put a ring on that. That's what you want to hear. But listen, especially ladies, if you're a girl who says, man, I don't care what my friend thinks. If all your girlfriends are telling you that guy's no good for you, listen, you've been to the beach before, right? If all your friends are saying, your godly friends, I'm not talking about your bar hopping friends. If your girlfriends who love Jesus are saying you don't need to be going out with that guy, that's a double red flag. That is a riptide waiting to happen. Do you follow what I'm saying? Watch out. Your friends are there to tell you. Listen, if your grandma says, I don't know about that guy, run like the devil. Get out of there. Grandma knows. She can smell it. Okay? All right, got to keep moving. She leads with, I'm very dark but lovely. Now listen, now everybody wants to have a tan, okay? But back in the day, a girl being dark wasn't a compliment. Why? Have you ever heard the expression, somebody comes from a blue blood school, or somebody's a blue blood person, meaning they come from a very rich family? Where does that saying come from? It comes from back in colonial days, and even before that, Old England. When the people lived in Northern Europe, in order for ladies to stay pretty all the years, they didn't have all the cosmetics that we do now. They wanted to stay out of the sun because they knew even back then that a lot of ultraviolet rays will cause damage to your skin. By the time you get in your 40s, 50s, you're not going to be that pretty anymore because your skin's been messed up. You're out in the weather. Your hands get all messed up from working in fields. Your nails never look good. And so what they would say is they started thinking, kind of a caste system that they had back in the day, is that the women who stayed inside all the time, it was a sign that they were from a rich family. And so those women would be really pale. They wouldn't get any sun on them at all. And because their skin was so pale white, when you saw their veins, they looked bluer than everybody else's veins. And so what people would think back then, before science explained things to where they could understand, is that people that God intended to be rich had bluer blood than those who had to work outside for a living. And that idea has been around for thousands of years. And so what she's saying is, looking in the mirror, she's thinking, man, I'm not good enough to be with this guy. She says, I'm very dark, I'm lovely, I'm a pretty girl. Then she says to all the other girls, I'm this dark, like the tents of Kedar, like the curtains of Solomon. The tents of Kedar were made of black wool. And so this was her way of saying, man, I've been working out in the sun too long. And then she says to the guy that wants to go out with her, do not gaze at me because I am dark, because the sun has looked upon me. My mother's sons were angry with me. No mention about her dad being in the picture in this entire book. She doesn't have a dad involved in her life or her dating process. My mother's sons were angry with me. Now, this idea of them being angry with you, it could be literal, as like they just literally made her work out in the field, but it could also be used metaphorically back in the time for they were abusive to me. She was Cinderella. And so she's met her Prince Charming, and she's saying, look, I realize I don't have my nails done. I ain't like those girls you run around with at the castle. Not only that, she's also probably saying, I was abused by family members, or I was definitely taken advantage of at some point. They made me keeper of the vineyards, but my own vineyard, talking about her body, I have not kept. I've been too busy doing what everybody else wants me to do with my body to take care of myself. And that leads to what I want you to see about this guy. And man, this is super attractive in this young man. A godly man helps a woman see the best in herself. So as soon as she says, man, I don't know that I'm good enough to be with you. Ladies, this is how you know the guy might be the right one. He says to her, comes right back, girl, I compare you, my love, to a mare among Pharaoh's chariots. Now, just a little hint, guys, don't compare your girls today to a horse, all right? So, man, you look like a horse. Like, that's not going to get you a date. Okay? But the Pharaoh's mare was the most expensive animal in the world. The Pharaoh would get the most beautiful horse, line up all the chariots of his military army, and come out with his horse, and they would decorate that horse as if this is the king's. Listen, back then, the Pharaoh had dozens of wives, but he only had one mare. They valued horses more than women. And so what this guy is saying, in the same way, the Pharaoh values that one horse, I value you more than that. Your cheeks are lovely with ornaments, your neck with strings of jewels. Behold, you are beautiful, my love. Behold, you are beautiful. Your eyes are doves. Again, I love the shape of your eyes. I like your skin. I like your cheeks. Man, he's laying it on thick here in a good way. Behold, like, look, I really mean this. You are beautiful, my beloved. Now, again, this isn't a sexual thing. He's saying, I love who you are as a person. I love who you are emotionally. I love who you are spiritually. Nothing sexual yet. They're not at that point in their relationship. You are delightful for me. You give me joy. Just being around you gives me joy. Now, him just pouring all this all through the end of chapter 1 on it. Here's this girl that felt awful about herself, but after the love of a good man, watch what she says in verse 1 of chapter 2. I am. You're right. I am a rose of Sharon. I am a lily of the valleys. Now, what is that? The rose of Sharon back in that day was a plant that lived in the middle of the desert where nothing else beautiful would bloom except the roses from this plant. And it was known as the most beautiful desert plant in the ancient Near East. And what she's saying here is, even though my life has been lived in a desert, even though I've been abused, even though so many things bad have happened to me in the past, because this guy showed her Jesus' love to her, because he saw her for what Jesus saw her for, not something sexual, but because she was a delight to him, her self-worth changed due to the love of good man to where now she says, even though I'm emotionally been in the desert my whole life, I am somebody special. I am somebody that deserves to be loved. And so the guy continues when he says, that's right, you are. You're like a lily among thorns. You're not like all the rest of the girls. So is my love among the young women. Like, I pick you out over everybody. And this is what I'm saying that he communicates to her. A godly man has eyes for one woman at a time. He's telling her, like, of all the young women on earth, you're the one want to be with. She continues, she says, tell me whom my soul loves. Like, I'm really interested in you. But again, I love in a relational, emotional way. That's the word love here. Tell me where you pasture your flock, where you make it lie down at noon, in the middle of the day. Where can we have lunch that's out in the open? For why should I be like one who veils herself? That's the way prostitutes or ladies of the night would dress. Why should I dress myself the way girls dress to have you be attracted to them? Why should I dress myself with the low-cut stuff, letting everything hang out? I'm a lily of the valley. I'm a rose of Sharon. I'm not going to act like the other girls that I go to school with act. I'm not going to dress like that. I'm not going to act like these people who veil themselves before the flocks of your companions. In other words, I'm not going to be like these girls that your friends are going out with. I ain't one of them. There's a reason these sayings, how many of you know what at least 4 of these 6 things are? Look at it on the board. Like, how many of you say, I know what 4 of those 6 things are? I'm not going to explain them all, don't have time. That would turn it into a rated R sermon probably, okay? But I share this with you. These are all terms of people who want to physically take advantage of somebody else, but don't want to be emotionally involved. And the reason that these words exist in our society, because it's a two-way street now. It's not just guys doing it to girls. Girls are doing it to guys. Keeping a guy on the bench, I'll call you if I want you, but I'm going to go chase these guys over here. I got this girl in my pocket. I'm chasing these other girls, but if I can't find anybody else for a Friday night, I'm going to call her. Sneaky link, there's just somebody I get with on the weekend. We don't really care about each other. Breadcrumbing like Hansel and Gretel. I'm going to string you along, but I'm not going to give you the love and respect you deserve. They text you, you don't text them back. You're trying to get the guy to call you, but he won't call you back. The zombie, he treats you like you're dead, or he's acting like he's dead, and all of a sudden he shows back up on the doorstep. So how does he respond? He says, if you don't know, oh, beautiful among women, if you're not sure that I love you and nobody else, follow in the tracks of the flock and pasture your young goats beside the shepherd's tents. Public. What is it saying here? A godly woman is attracted to a man who is willing to proudly date her in public and avoid other women. He's willing to avoid other women in private, which also means I'm not talking to any other girls. And if you want to see the conversations I'm having on my phone with other girls, you can see it. If you want to check my DMs, you can see it. I got nothing to hide. I'm not flirting with any of the other women. And once in a while, I'll have a married couple come in, and they're having problems, and the wife feels like he's keeping secret. Well, I don't want my wife to have my passwords. I don't want her looking at my text. And let me tell you what, when I hear a guy say, when I ask him, I'm like, man, why are you afraid to let your wife see your texts with other women? Why are you afraid to let her see your passwords for your email? Why are you afraid to do? And he said, well, what if I want to throw a surprise party for her someday? I've heard about 10 guys say that to me. To which I would say to all you ladies, if your husband's saying he doesn't want you to see it because he wants to throw a surprise for you, that's your double red flag. Man, I'm open book is what he's saying. I got to ask for one woman. I'm not chasing other girls. I'm not texting other girls. So the woman responds, as an apple tree among the trees of the forest, so is my beloved among the young men. He's special, and he gives me shade. With great delight, I sat in his shadow, and his fruit was sweet to my taste. He brought me to the banqueting house. That's a public place for a date. Not trying to get her to go back to his apartment at 12 o'clock at night. Won't you come over and let's watch some Netflix, just me and you, nobody else around. He ain't doing that. He's a godly man. He's protecting her reputation as well as his. And his banner over me is love. And the word here for banner is a military symbol of protection. And this is the first time in the book of Solomon we see his banner over me. He's given me a sign that he's ready to move to the next love stage, where there's going to be a physical component involved. And that's what we're going to talk about next week. But I close today with this from verse 7. The man is willing to fight for and protect his relationship with his future bride, and the woman is willing to receive his banner. So if a guy says to a girl, man, I think that guy's bad news, or I think that guy's being a little flirty for you, the girl's like, okay, I'll back off on that. Thank you for caring about me. Now, I know some guys can be a little overprotective. It doesn't mean women can't have guy friends. But if a guy's saying, man, I don't like the way he looks at you, if the other way, if a woman says to her, I don't like that way that woman looks at you, you got to listen to that. You appreciate it. So I close with this thought. Ladies, this goes back to what I was saying earlier, men the same. When the Bible says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, this is how the laws of attraction first work. Do we love Jesus because we first loved him, or do we love him because he first loved us? What's the answer? We love him. Why? Because he first loved us. Oh, how I love Jesus because he first loved me. It is the guy's job to take the initiative. It is the guy's job to do whatever I need to do to make sure my wife feels loved for and cared about. The guy takes that first step just like Jesus took the first step with us, to protect and to provide. He continues here, no one ever hated his own flesh, but he nourishes and cherishes it. That's my job with Dee. And I started demonstrating that with her before we even took our first date. Just as Christ does the church. This mystery is profound, and I am saying that it refers to Christ and the church. So I want to give you this thought. I want all of us in this room to remember that you are a child of God. I love it, this lady saying, man, you're not going to treat me the way all these other girls are getting treated. I deserve better than that. I deserve to be treated with respect. And the guy says to you, you are beautiful, you are lovely, I care about you, and you're right. You deserve all those things, and I'm going to give those to you. That's what the Psalm of Solomon is all about. But also within this story, I got to give you this as a warning. Ladies, if you're attracted to the bad guys, there's a reason. Guys, if you're attracted to the girls who are a little too loose with what they're sharing in public, and you know what I mean by that, there's a reason. Because instead of filling your mind with the Word of God and looking for the things that God would have for you, you're allowing your movies, ladies, you're allowing the books maybe you read, or the TV shows you watch, or the lyrics that you're listening to, and those are doing what we talked about earlier in the sermon. Those are forming in your mind, this is what you should be attracted to. And so if I'm filling my mind with junk, then I'm going to be attracted to junk. But if I'm filling my mind and I'm surrounding myself with godly people and godly words, God will mold your heart to be attracted to the one whom your soul will love. And when you find that person, that's when we can start having the discussion we're having next week. Now's maybe the time to take it to the next step.